Jisung slams a loaded .45 onto the mahogany bar and demands a drink, unaware he is asking Sangwoo, the hidden king, to serve his last meal. At exactly 10:42 p.m., Sangwoo is just a man in a black apron, calmly polishing a crystal glass and enjoying the peace of being invisible. In exactly 4 minutes, Eugene bursts through the doors in a shredded red dress, clutching a secret that can burn the city to the ground. In exactly 12 minutes, Sangwoo must decide if he is still a peaceful bartender or the monster Jisung's men use to tell ghost stories about. He spent 5 years trying to be forgotten, but some kings stay in the shadows only until it is time to strike. The brass doors of the Velvet Gripfly open at 10:46 p.m. sharp. A woman in a shredded red dress stumbles into the dim, amber light of the lounge. Her breath comes in ragged gasps that cut through the smooth jazz playing overhead. This is Eugene. She isn't just running, she is hunted. She clutches a small silver flash drive against her chest, like it is the only thing keeping her heart beating. Blood smears the front of her silk gown, a stark contrast to the elegant decor of Sangwoo's sanctuary. She looks at the man behind the bar with eyes wide with terror. She doesn't see a legendary king, she sees a lifeline. Sangwoo doesn't panic. He doesn't even drop the crystal glass he is polishing. He moves with a liquid grace that belies the violence he once commanded. In 3 strides, he is at the end of the bar. He catches Eugene just as her knees buckle. Her skin is ice cold. "Help me," she whispers, her voice barely a thread of sound. Sangwoo hears the screech of tires on the wet pavement outside. He knows that sound. It is the sound of a hit squad arriving to finish a job. He has 3 seconds before the sanctuary is breached. He lifts the hidden latch of the bar counter. "Down," he commands. It isn't a suggestion, it is a royal decree. He slides Eugene into the narrow, carpeted space beneath the heavy mahogany. He closes the latch just as the front doors hit the wall with a deafening bang. 3 men in tactical gear burst in, led by a man in a sharp, expensive suit. The air in the room shifts instantly. The warmth of the lounge vanishes, replaced by the cold, metallic scent of impending death. Sangwoo is back behind the bar before the first man can level his weapon. He picks up his polishing cloth again. The men fan out, their boots heavy on the hardwood floor. They look like sharks in a goldfish pond. The leader, Jisung, walks toward the bar with a confident, arrogant stride. He scans the room, his eyes lingering on the empty stools and the shadows in the corner. He doesn't look at the bartender as a threat. He looks at him as a piece of furniture. Sangwoo keeps his expression neutral, his posture relaxed. He looks like a man who worries about garnishes and drink specs, not the digital ledger of a crime syndicate hidden inches from his feet. "We're closed for private event preparation," Sangwoo says, his voice smooth and steady. He doesn't look up from the glass. The silence that follows is heavy. One of the gunmen moves toward the back office, but Jisung raises a hand to stop him. He smells the iron in the air. He knows she is here. He leans against the bar, inches away from where Eugene is trembling in the dark. The game has begun. Sangwoo feels the old familiar thrill of the hunt waking up in his veins. He spent 5 years trying to wash the blood off his hands, but the world has decided he needs to get them dirty one more time. Jisung exhales a thick cloud of cigar smoke that curls around the amber pendant lights. He looks at Sangwoo with a mocking grin, the kind of smile a predator gives to a sheep. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out a thick stack of $100 bills, slamming them onto the mahogany surface. The sound is dull and heavy. "A woman came in here," Jisung says, his voice a low growl. "Red dress, short hair, carrying something that doesn't belong to her." He watches Sangwoo's face for a flinch, a blink, or any sign of fear. He finds nothing but the calm, easy smile of a professional server. Sangwoo glances at the money, and then back at the whiskey bottle he is prepping. In his head, he is already calculating. He sees the tactical weakness in Jisung's stance. If he lunges now, he can snap Jisung's neck with the bar towel. He can disarm the man to the left with a heavy glass bottle. He can use the ice pick to neutralize the third gunman before they even realize the bartender has moved. 40 ways to end this scene flash through his mind like a high-speed film. He knows exactly where the pressure points are. He knows which shadows in the room provide the best cover for a killing blow. I see a lot of people in red, Sang-woo replies, his tone light and conversational. Usually after they've had a few too many of my signature martinis. He slides a clean coaster toward Ji-sung. But I don't see anyone here now except for you and your friends. And like I said, we're closed. Ji-sung's grin fades. He isn't used to being told no by someone who wears an apron. He leans closer, the smell of expensive cologne and cheap violence rolling off him. He puts his hand on the handle of the .45 tucked into his waistband, making sure the metal catches the light. You're a smart guy, Bartender, Ji-sung whispers. Don't let a hero complex get you buried in a shallow grave. That money is more than you make in a year. Tell me where she is, and I might even leave you a tip. The gunmen move closer, their hands hovering over their holsters. The tension in the room is a physical weight. Under the bar, Eugene is so still she might be dead. Sang-woo feels her terror through the wood. He also feels the weight of his own secret. If he breaks his cover now, the life he built vanishes forever. Sang-woo picks up a bottle of high-end bourbon. He pours a single finger into a glass and pushes it toward Ji-sung. On the house, he says. A parting gift. He looks Ji-sung directly in the eye. For a split second, the hidden king peeks through the mask. His gaze is as cold as a winter grave. Ji-sung freezes, his hand tightening on his gun. He feels a sudden, inexplicable chill. He doesn't know why, but for the first time in his life, he feels like he is the one being hunted. He stares at the bartender, trying to find the source of the threat, but the mask is back. Sang-woo is just a man waiting for a customer to leave. The silence is broken by the sound of a boot scuffing the floor. One of Ji-sung's goons, a massive man with a scarred lip, loses his patience. He thinks Sang-woo is playing games. He strides forward and slams his hand down on the bar, right next to the stack of cash. Enough talk, the goon barks. He reaches over the counter, trying to grab Sang-woo by the collar. It is a fatal mistake. In the underworld, you never touch a king's territory. Sang-woo's movement is so fast, it is almost invisible to the naked eye. He doesn't even drop the cocktail strainer he is holding. In one fluid motion, Sang-woo captures the goon's wrist with the metal edge of the strainer. He twists his body, using the goon's own momentum against him. A sickening crack echoes through the lounge as the man's wrist snaps like a dry twig. The goon lets out a strangled cry, but Sang-woo doesn't stop. He slams the man's head into the mahogany bar with a dull thud. Before the other gunman can react, Sang-woo has a heavy glass shaker in his hand. He hasn't moved from his spot behind the bar, but the energy in the room has shifted from a negotiation to a slaughterhouse. Rule number 1, Sang-woo says, his voice now a razor-sharp edge. Nobody touches the bar. He releases the goon, who slumps to the floor, clutching his ruined wrist. Ji-sung and the other gunmen draw their weapons in a panic. They are pointing guns at a man who is still holding a piece of bar equipment, yet they are the ones shaking. The hidden king is no longer hidden. He stands tall, his shoulders broad, his presence filling the room until the lounge feels too small to contain him. He looks at the barrels of the guns with complete indifference. Ji-sung steps back, his face pale. "Who are you?" he stammers. He has seen professional killers, but he has never seen someone move with that kind of lethal efficiency. It wasn't a bar fight, it was a surgical strike. Sang-woo doesn't answer. He simply picks up the stack of cash and tosses it back at Ji-sung. The bills flutter through the air like falling leaves. "You have 30 seconds to take your trash and leave my sanctuary," Sang-woo says. "If you are still here at 31, you won't be walking out. You'll be carried." The goon on the floor groans, trying to scramble away. The other gunman looks to Ji-sung for orders, but Ji-sung is paralyzed. He realizes he has walked into the den of a dragon while thinking it was a sheep's pen. He recognizes the look in Sang-woo's eyes now. It is the look of a man who has seen the bottom of the abyss and didn't blink. Ji-sung grabs the cash, his hands trembling. He motions for his men to retreat. They back out of the brass doors, never taking their eyes off the man behind the bar. As the doors swing shut, Sang-woo exhales. The peace is gone. The war has found him. Sangwoo waits until the sound of the engine fades into the distance before he reaches down and unlatches the hidden compartment. Eugene crawls out, her face streaked with tears and dust. She looks at the man who just broke a wrist without breaking a sweat. She is terrified of him, but she has nowhere else to go. She holds out the silver flash drive, her hand shaking violently. "They killed everyone for this," she whispers. "They think I'm just a courier, but I saw what's on it. It's not just money. It's the names. All of them. The police, the judges, the other families." Sangwoo takes the drive. It feels heavy in his hand, a cold piece of metal that represents the end of his quiet life. He leads her through the back of the bar, down a set of narrow stone stairs into the cellar. This is where he keeps his finest vintages, but behind a rack of 1945 Bordeaux lies his true office. He pushes a hidden brick, and a section of the wall slides open to reveal a high-tech computer setup. This was his insurance policy, a way to monitor the world he thought he'd left behind. He plugs the drive in, and the screen erupts in a cascade of encrypted data. As the files unlock, Sangwoo's face hardens. It is worse than he imagined. Ji-sung isn't just a mid-level thug. He is the front man for a massive syndicate takeover. They plan to cleanse Seoul of any opposition, and the names on this list are the people they intend to execute or bribe to make it happen. Eugene watches him, her reflection ghost-like on the monitor. "You're him, aren't you?" she asks quietly. "The one the elders talk about. The king who walked away." Sangwoo doesn't look at her. He is focused on a map appearing on the screen. "I'm just a bartender, Eugene," he says, but the lie tastes like ash. He sees a blinking red dot on the map. It is his lounge. He realizes that Ji-sung didn't leave because he was scared. He left to call in reinforcements. They didn't need to find her if they could just burn the whole building down. The flash drive was a tracking device as much as a storage unit. He has been played. He spent 5 years building a sanctuary, and in one night, he turned it into a target. He looks around the cellar, at the stone walls that have felt like home, and realizes they are now a tomb. He turns to Eugene. "You need to stay here. Don't come up no matter what you hear." He reaches into a hidden drawer and pulls out 2 sleek, black handguns. He checks the magazines with a practiced, rhythmic click. He isn't the man in the apron anymore. He is the man who once commanded thousands with a single word. He realizes his peace was an illusion he told himself, so he could sleep at night. You can't wash blood off with gin and vermouth. He heads for the stairs, the weight of his old life settling onto his shoulders like a suit of armor. At 11:15 p.m., a glass firebomb hits the front window and shatters. Big flames grow quickly. The fire starts to burn the soft velvet curtains. Sangwoo stands in the center of the room, watching his dream burn. He doesn't use his guns yet. He wants them to think he is desperate. He wants them to come inside. He picks up a long, steel ice pick and a bottle of overproof rum. Outside, the sound of glass breaking and doors being kicked in fills the air. Ji-sung has returned, and this time he brought an army. 6 men burst through the flames, wearing masks and carrying lead pipes and machetes. They start trashing the place, smashing the expensive bottles and overturning the leather booths. They are looking for the girl, but they are happy to destroy the bar along the way. Sangwoo moves through the smoke like a wraith. He splashes the overproof rum across the floor in a calculated trail. As the first goon approaches the bar, Sangwoo strikes a match. A wall of blue flame erupts, separating the attackers and creating a chaotic maze of fire and shadow. He uses the ice pick with terrifying precision. He doesn't aim for the chest, he aims for the joints. He moves behind a goon and drives the steel into the man's shoulder, twisting it before vanishing back into the smoke. The men are screaming, swinging wildly at shadows. Sangwoo is the master of this environment. He knows every inch of the floor, every corner of the bar. He uses a heavy glass decanter to crush a man's temple, then uses the man's falling body as a shield against a machete swing. He is a whirlwind of controlled violence. Ji-sung stands outside the broken doors, shouting orders, but his men are being swallowed by the lounge. The Hidden King is using the tools of his trade to wage a one-man war. Sangwoo grabs a goon by the hair and slams his face into the burning bar top. He feels no pity, only a cold, focused rage. They broke his house rules. They burned his sanctuary. Now, they have to pay the cover charge in blood. He moves toward the final two men in the room, his eyes glowing with the reflection of the fire. The remaining goons lose their nerve. They turn to run, but Sang-woo is already there, blocking the exit. He drops the ice pick and simply uses his bare hands to finish the job. When the room finally goes quiet, the only sound is the crackling of the fire and the heavy breathing of a man who has fully returned to his nature. Sang-woo steps through the flames and out onto the sidewalk. He stands in the street, covered in soot and blood, looking at Ji-sung. The bartender is dead. The king is back, and he is coming for the throne. Sang-woo stands on the sidewalk as the fire department sirens wail in the distance. He does not stay to watch the smoke rise. He walks 3 blocks to a hidden parking garage and enters a sleek, black sedan. He reaches into the glove box and pulls out a burner phone he hasn't touched in years. He dials a number from memory. The call is picked up on the first ring. No one speaks for 5 seconds. Finally, Sang-woo breaks the silence. The king is awake, he says. Tell the city to watch the shadows. Across Seoul, the message travels like a virus. In high-rise offices and underground fight clubs, men stop what they are doing. The name Sang-woo is a ghost story, but tonight, the ghost is real. Sang-woo drives toward a secure safe house on the outskirts of the city. He needs to move Eugene before Ji-sung's bosses send a professional military unit. He watches the digital ledger on a tablet mounted to his dashboard. The tracking dot for the flash drive is still active, but he has rerouted the signal to lead Ji-sung toward a trap in the shipping docks. He pulls into a secluded villa hidden by tall pine trees. This is his real fortress. He opens the door for Eugene, who looks at the luxury car and the high walls with confusion. She sees the way Sang-woo moves now. He is no longer the man who pours drinks. He is a man who decides who lives and who dies. Who are you really? She asks as they walk inside. Sang-woo stops and looks at the moonlight reflecting off the pool. I am the man who makes sure you see tomorrow, he replies. Nothing else matters. He opens a laptop and begins a counterattack. He does not use guns this time. He uses information. With a few keystrokes, he cuts off Ji-sung's access to the syndicate's bank accounts. He watches the screen as the numbers drop to 0. In a downtown office, Ji-sung is likely screaming at his screens right now. Sang-woo then sends a single file from the ledger to the city's most honest prosecutor. It is a small taste of the truth, meant to sow chaos among the corrupt officials who protect the syndicate. The city's power grid flickers for a second as Sang-woo's old contacts begin to seize control of the digital infrastructure. He is suffocating Ji-sung's world without firing a single shot. Eugene sits on a leather sofa, watching him work. She realizes that the hidden king never actually retired. He just changed his weapons. Sang-woo closes the laptop and looks at his watch. The sun will be up in 3 hours. By then, Ji-sung will be desperate, and a desperate man makes mistakes. Sang-woo is counting on it. The piece of the safe house is shattered. At 4 a.m., Sang-woo hears the faint pop of a silenced rifle from the perimeter. They didn't fall for the trap at the docks. Ji-sung must have hired a top-tier assassin who knows how to track a heartbeat, not just a signal. Sang-woo grabs his 2 black handguns and motions for Eugene to hide in the reinforced pantry. Don't open this door for anyone but me, he says. His voice is cold and flat. The transition is complete. The bartender is gone. A shadow moves past the floor-to-ceiling windows. Sang-woo doesn't wait for them to enter. He fires through the glass. The muzzle flashes lighting up the dark room. A body falls into the pool with a heavy splash. Suddenly, the front door explodes inward. 2 men in black armor charge in with submachine guns. Sang-woo rolls behind a marble kitchen island. He fires with clinical accuracy, hitting both men in the gaps of their armor. They drop instantly. He is not just defending himself, he is clearing a path. He hears a floorboard creak behind him. He spins and kicks a third attacker in the chest, sending him flying back into the kitchen. The man reaches for a knife, but Sang-woo is faster. He grabs a heavy cast iron pan from the stove and slams it into the man's temple. Blood spatters across Sang-woo's white shirt. He looks down at his ruined clothes and feels a flash of annoyance. He liked the shirt. It reminded him of his quiet life at the bar. Now it is just another piece of evidence from a crime scene. Another assassin enters through the back terrace. This one is different. He moves with the silence of a professional. He fires a volley of shots that graze Sang-woo's shoulder. Sang-woo dives behind the sofa, feeling the hot sting of the bullet. He doesn't flinch. He breathes through the pain, waiting for the rhythm of the assassin's footsteps. When the man pauses to reload, Sang-woo leaps over the furniture. He fires 3 times, ending the threat before the man can finish snapping his magazine into place. The house goes quiet again. Sang-woo stands in the middle of his living room, surrounded by bodies. He checks his shoulder. The wound is shallow, but it bleeds heavily. He walks to the pantry and knocks a specific code. The door opens, and Eugene gasps at the sight of him. He is covered in blood, his eyes hard and empty. "It's over for tonight," he says. He realizes that he can't hide her anymore. To keep her safe, he has to go to the source. He has to kill the head of the snake. Sang-woo does not go back to the bar. He drives straight to the heart of the city, to a skyscraper owned by Ji-sung's father. He is not hiding. He pulls up to the front entrance in broad daylight. He wears a $10,000 suit that fits him like a second skin. He walks through the lobby with his head held high. The security guards reach for their radios, but they stop when they see his face. One of the older guards drops his gun and takes a step back. "The king," the guard whispers in terror. The word spreads through the building before Sang-woo even reaches the elevator. He doesn't encounter any resistance. The men who work for the syndicate know the stories. They know that Sang-woo once cleared an entire room of armed killers with nothing but a fountain pen. They aren't paid enough to die for Ji-sung's ego. Sang-woo reaches the top floor and the elevator doors chime. He steps out into a massive office with a panoramic view of the city. Ji-sung is there, sitting behind a desk, looking like a scared child. "You're supposed to be dead." Ji-sung screams. He reaches for the drawer where he keeps his pistol, but his hand shakes too much. Sang-woo walks slowly across the room. He doesn't look angry. He looks disappointed. He sits in the chair opposite Ji-sung and crosses his legs. "You burned my bar, Ji-sung," Sang-woo says. His voice is quiet, but it carries more weight than a gunshot. "You broke the house rules. And now, I've decided that your time in this city is finished." Ji-sung tries to call for his guards, but no one comes. He looks at the monitors on his desk. His security team is standing in the hallways with their hands up. They have already switched sides. They recognize the real power in the room. Sang-woo leans forward and places a single silver coin on the desk. It is the old mark of the Mafia king. "This is your last warning," Sang-woo says. "You will sign over your assets to the woman you tried to kill. Then, you will leave the country. If I see your face in Seoul after sunset, you won't get a trial." Ji-sung looks at the coin and then at Sang-woo. He realizes he has lost everything. He isn't fighting a bartender. He is fighting a god of the underworld. He reaches for a pen and begins to sign the documents Sang-woo placed in front of him. His hand is still trembling. Sang-woo watches him, his expression bored. He has done this 1,000 times before. He knows that fear is the best contract ever written. When the papers are signed, Sang-woo stands up and takes the silver coin back. The war is won. 1 month later, the velvet grip reopens. The smell of fresh paint and expensive leather fills the air. The front window is replaced with thick, bulletproof glass. The brass doors are polished until they shine like gold. Sang-woo is back behind the bar, wearing a crisp black apron. He looks at peace. He is once again the man who worries about the perfect ice cube and the right garnish. But there is a new feeling in the room. The patrons are quieter. They show more respect. Eugene sits at the end of the bar, wearing a simple black dress. She is no longer the hunted woman in red. She is the owner of the building and the manager of the lounge. She handles the books while Sang-woo handles the drinks. They don't talk about the night the city burned. They don't talk about the ledger or the men who disappeared. They focus on the jazz music and the clink of glasses. They have built a new kind of sanctuary, one that doesn't need to hide. A new customer walks in and tries to act tough. He puts a cigarette out on the bar and speaks rudely to Eugene. Sang-woo doesn't move. He doesn't even look up from the martini he is stirring. But a man in a dark suit at a corner table stands up and walks over. He leans into the customer's ear and whispers something. The customer's face turns white. He apologizes to Eugene, leaves a massive tip, and walks out the door as fast as he can. The king doesn't need to fight anymore. His name does the work for him. Sangwoo slides a drink down the mahogany wood. It stops perfectly in front of Eugene. To the future, he says. He gives her that warm, easy smile that once suggested he was just a charming bartender. She smiles back, knowing the truth. She knows that the man in the apron is the most dangerous person in the world. She knows that as long as he is behind that bar, she is the safest woman in Seoul. They have found a way to live in the light while keeping the darkness at bay. As the clock strikes midnight, Sang-woo turns off the main lights. The lounge is bathed in a soft, blue glow. He hangs up his apron and walks over to Eugene. He takes her hand, and they walk out the back door together. The city is quiet. The shadows are still. The hidden king has returned to his throne, but the world only sees a man walking home with a friend. He spent years trying to be forgotten, but he finally realized that the best way to be invisible is to be the one who controls the light.